So we've had a quick chat about line and how important line is in drawing. And one of the things you actually need to do is you actually need to have contrast. Because how do you know about a line unless you can compare it to something else? It needs its opposite to actually express itself fully. Because an example, that can be a heavy line. So you think, well, it's a heavy line. And if you put something next to it that's heavier, then that puts it in context that this one isn't a heavy line, it's now a medium line, and that's a heavy line. And then you need contrast for things to work and for things to actually show. And contrast in line also adds an awful lot to your drawing. It's try and get as many sort of different lines and different weights and textures and expressive feeling in your drawing. It's actually quite important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an exercise. This is exercise 1, and what we do is we get as many tools and as many items that we can to make a line. And we're going to experiment with a line, and at the end of it we want to have as many different ways of making a line and different lines we can possibly have on a page in different media. So it's just a matter of playing, and that's what a lot of art is. Play with your materials and see what happens. Set yourself a rule or a parameter, like you say, I might just use thread, and then I'm going to try every way conceivable of how to use thread and paper together, and then that's how you discover things. That's what you learn. You can then add that to your art practice. So I'm going to play here. I'm going to play with all sorts of lines. I'm going to do sweeping lines. I'm just going to it doesn't matter, I'm just going to put lines. Just going to see what happens. I'm going to change my mood and change all sorts of things. I'm just going to go anywhere and just see what this media does, whether it's smudgy. Just anger. It's best to think of contrasts, or like hard, difficult, aggressive, as opposed to really quite nice and light. And go off the edge of your page, don't even worry about that. Lose the tyranny of the edge of the page. If you go off your page, you really extend the space of your drawing out beyond there. And we can do all sorts. We can do stenciling, edges, masking. Now if I turn that over, what we have here is a negative line. That's where there's nothing there. It's a negative shape. It's not rubbed out or anything. It's actually a line that's been left. Another negative line. You can actually erase. A lot of lines can be done with erasing. You can actually rub out line. You can draw with an eraser. You can draw with pen. You can draw with paint, like white paint. You can come back into this. Right. We need to get some more interesting colours and stuff happening. collage is good. Line of collages. I'm going to do lovely. Collage is a great thing for what we can actually do. Scratching. Get some charcoal into those. And tears and holes and bits and pieces can be part of drawing. I will get a nice bit of colour. That was my torn edges. What else have we got? So I've got collage, I've got different types of lyrical line, I've got scratches, I've got cuts and holes, there's all these things, I've got cross hatching, and so one thing I haven't got is we've got what's known here as an implied line, in that our eye catches those. And even though it doesn't continue, we follow through and catch it through. And we can also have implied lines. There's one there, and it could catch that one. So we need something here to bring it back. And that actually helps with movement around like that. That's where line can direct your eye around it. And if you have an implied line, which one, two, and it catches you again there. I might add a bit more there. And we can also have lines created by objects. They themselves aren't a line, but being put in order and in a curve like that, they actually make a line. So that's objects making a line. can have stitching and threads and all sorts of things. And the whole idea is that you can actually see where you can go with this. See if this works. Sort of. That's transfer, where I've rubbed on the back of there. Much works better, I think. And we can have stenciling. So this here is an example of exercise 1 for the drawing class. Anyone can draw, which is where you grabbed anything and you played with it and just see how many marks or lines or things you can actually achieve on a piece of paper. And I've played around with colour, and I've played around with charcoal and pastel, and I've scratched with this pair of scissors and rubbed charcoal into the scratches, and that looks quite effective. I have smudgy lines, I have thin lines, I have very aggressive marked lines. I have masking, where I've put something that masked the material out. I've got layering, I've got textures, and I have collage, where I've created a line with a collaged edge, because you can actually, you don't have to draw a line, you can actually use edges of paper or cut edges or object edges. This is a negative shape line or negative line, which is a line that's been created by two things abutting either side of it, because you can actually either rub those out or create them by doing two lines next to each other. I've got holes where I've cut paper out, and I can tear paper. This is torn. I've used thread, where I've stitched thread through the paper. You can use stitching and threads and found materials, but you can also glue that on. I've punctured the paper with a darning needle this way, and then from the back, which when the charcoal was smudged into it, gave a much better line. I've got implied lines, which is where you might have a line that's broken or interrupted, but the eye still reads it, so it goes right up to there. That's an implied line. And these curves, although they're interrupted, your eye will create them and remake them and have them. Your eye will always follow a line's direction. We have a circular line direction happening here with this work. Even the most subtle marks will actually encourage you to follow something in a work. Here's a secondary little circle, which is quite lovely. These points, they themselves are not lines, but because they are in a line formation, our eye follows them around here. And we've got all these different lines. And that's by no means how many lines you can put on a page, but it is just a start of where you should go and how you should think of something as being a line or a mark on a page. You can think about your subject, or you can think about something alternative to make a line with, like thread or collage or scissors or anything like that that would work. You can also select one aspect of line making and then find out how many things you can actually do with that one thing, either it be charcoal or a media or a pair of scissors, and just use those to explore. So having fun, exploring, playing with your media and your tools. It's a wonderful way to learn things. And what you must do with this exercise is not have any set expectations, because everything is worthwhile and everything works out in this particular exercise.